Hello everyone, welcome to yet another episode of Azure On Air. And today I have a very interesting guest, Rahul. Hi Rahul, and Rahul is a person who comes with a very valuable experience to speak about something that's very trending in Azure right now. So Rahul is a person who's got 13 years of experience and with at least 7.5 years focused hands-on experience with Azure DevOps, and that's what he's going to talk about today, giving you highlights about the complete operational activities of Azure. So that's what we call today's episode as decoding Azure operations. And let's also hear it from the speaker himself. Hi, Rahul.
When you decide the framework or any application that you have on your on-prem or you're building that application's cloud native, right? Try to understand the flow. Anyone who had a plan to move on cloud, when they have initial budget, and then they can definitely involve all those 3 4 towers of cloud operations. Hi Amrita, hello everyone.
Yeah. Also, I've come hearing about you, Rahul, that you are an MCT. You have acquired MCT for the last 3+ years, and also a solution architect. Apart from being with so much of experience, we would also like to know a few words about yourself. A quick introduction for our audience.
Thank you, Amrita. Thank you for invitation and opportunity to talk and interact with the like-minded people on the podcast. So as you said, right, I am a MCT for last three plus years, and then MCT is Microsoft Certified Trainer. Along with that, I'm also a solution architect on Azure, focusing on infrastructure and DevOps part of it. Um, I also hold multiple other live Azure certification that includes data security and governance. Um, Apart from that, I also talk to multiple other Azure related conferences, user groups, and some seminars where I talk about Azure, DevOps, FinOps, CloudOps, and recently I have explored the new area of my expertise or my passion called chaos engineering. So which is yeah, so this is something that I really passionate about, building the solution which helps the customers to build the faith on Azure by implementing the reliable and highly available cost effective solution Azure on Azure. So that's very quick about me. Yeah.
Awesome. Then I'm going to talk to a bundle of talent today, and also the audience are getting benefited out of it. I'm very happy to have you on our show. I am happy that I found you to be in the show. Yeah. And yeah, as I was introducing you, let's start with your first thing, like with the flow of building a thing in Azure. So architecting the cloud solutions. So I also saw that picture in your, I mean, the in your experience chart, that architecting cloud solutions to help enterprises build rehost and re-architect solutions. So can you share us with your experience on that part?
Sure, Amrita. So this is if you go down 10 years back or 20 years back, right? Cloud was isn't in a picture, but since then, last decade is huge. Everyone is moving on a cloud, and just moving on a cloud is not a solution to add values to your business. So you really need to understand and find the real reason why and which services will help you to make that move. Value will add value to your business. So when you decide the framework or any application that you have on your on-prem or you're building that application's cloud native, right? Try to understand the flow. So the first flow I usually see people think about is get to understand how their current architecture is, and then find out the what is the relevant or target state or draft state architecture on cloud. So once we have that in picture, right, then you get the other three towers, FinOps, DevOps, and then people call it CloudOps, SRE, and so on, right? So yeah, that's the flow. I think initially you need to get clarified, you need to get a clear understanding of your architecture, and then other three tower will fall apart.
Super. So, you gave me a clear picture about how it flows and falls in place. DevOps, FinOps, and CloudOps, and followed by that, few more things that you mentioned. So,
Mhm.
can you give us a quick description about each operation cycle that you mentioned?
Mhm. So initially, when the first cycle I find people or I use in my current practices, right? When we work with the product engineering team or product group or application owners, and they have a bottleneck or they have issues with current architecture and they wanted to move on a cloud to leverage the speed and beat the market, right? So we find out what are the challenges they are facing, right? Most probably we would see that people are trying to decommission their on-premises data centers to remove the dependencies on the hardware, right? Maybe most of the companies, they are finding the hardware is end of life and they wanted to move on a cloud to just ensure that we are focusing on business logic instead of going on a hardware related stuff, right? So initially understand your requirement, how the how the targeted architecture involve your developer team, get the pinpoint from them, list down it, and then also work with your FinOps guys, or if you have a separate FinOps teams to understand, right? Whenever we move to cloud or build a solution for cloud, the prime motive is to not just only get the at the scale, but also how we can optimize that application for better business values, right? So add the people from your from your FinOps teams, get the forecasting, work with your solution architect team from the Azure or your partners or CSPs to understand how much it will cost, uh, and that way you can make a value out of it. So that's the first track, the architecting the solution.
Super. So that is a crisp note on that. And also, I have a question here, Rahul. So DevOps is something that we have frequently heard about, or I myself have seen, or people who are into newly into Azure have heard about or been through. What about cloud ops and FinOps? That's something pretty much I hear it a bit new to me, and I think most of the audience would have also experienced that word to be a bit new. Can you just explain us on those two?
Sure. So cloud ops is nothing but the operation stem that we usually see in traditional area, right? So if you go back 10 15 years back, you would have two teams working on a specific application, or just say on a weekends, right, to do some changes or do some implementation, right? So usually developer team will build something and they would hand over that code to your operations teams to in case of your IIS application, right? They'll copy paste that new file or something, and they'll reboot the service, right? So actually the people who have access on your production like systems, and they will only do what have been told to do by your developer team, right? Those are the people who are the operations team at very very high level, right? They also have
Hmm.
much more in-depth work, in order to maintain the reliability, availability, security, and other part of the business. So the cloud ops is born after the cloud has taken off, right? Otherwise earlier you would see some product engineering team or SRE team, right? SRE is not really new. It is very old term. Product team is something is now term as cloud ops teams. And answer to your second question, right? FinOps, yeah. So FinOps is really new, and people are still trying to understand what really FinOps is. So it is same thing with DevOps earlier. When 10 years back, DevOps was really not new, but nowadays definition of DevOps has been expanded. So the same thing happened to the FinOps. FinOps has a majority of work in managing your finances. So if you wanted to, if you got some budget, right? If you have a finance department and they wanted to migrate 10 application this year, and you have X amount of money to spend on it, so you need to prioritize which are the application that you can you can migrate on those
Mm-mm.
specific amount. And so that is the initial, that's the very initial stage of FinOps. And then also you need to optimize the solutions. Once you have solution live, you need to work with the monitoring team, or you need to build your own monitoring systems to get the data from the cloud and understand which applications or which resources are optimally used. So there are multiple tools being offered by multiple cloud providers. Azure has Azure advisors and many more to help, which whether you are leveraging those resources at what it provides, and leverage the scalability, availability, and including all those, you make a decision whether my services are running fine with whatever I'm paying for it, or do I need to downsize, resize, all sort of things. So this is again another part of FinOps. And then again, you will work with the Microsoft guys to get the EA agreement and define, have the SLAs and all sort of things. So this all part of kind of part of the FinOps.
Okay. Nice. So I pretty much had a clear understanding about it as well now. So my next question would be for the people who are migrating to Azure. So the trend now is we see a huge amount of people migrating to Azure. Wherever we see people tell that we are moving from an on-prem solution to Azure. So we need a solution for that. In that case, what do you advise those people in terms of these operational needs?
Mhm. Yeah, so this is really key question actually. So if you see, right, people are moving from on-premises, they are doing lift and shift, they are rehosting the application, they are re-architecting the application, right? So
Yeah.
at the very initial stage, you also need to involve your product support team or SRE team,
Mm.
or whoever is your monitoring team or operation team, right? So that way they understand what you are up to. Otherwise, what will happen, you will be in UAT, and then you will involve these guys at the production stage, and they may or may not have the cloud skills. That is not a good idea to be in, right? So I would suggest, anyone who have a plan to move on cloud, when they have initial budget, and then they can definitely involve all those 3 4 towers of cloud operations, I would say. Get your monitoring lead, operation lead, SRE lead, and FinOps lead on a call, and have a plan, have a discussion, or have a whiteboard drawing session saying that this is what we are up to, and these are the new tools that we are planning to use, and
Mm.
we may need resources who understand this, or we may need to upskill our resources on these tools. So that way, when you are you are about to go live, you have everything in place, and people are supporting at fullest.
Super. Yeah. Also, I have a question followed by this. Uh, do that specific people who are moving into Azure really need an consulting expertise to arrange all this or understand something like this is happening?
So I would say not really. They don't need to be expertise on those things, or they don't need a certification or expert level certification on Azure. But definitely, what I would prefer them to have clear understanding about how the cloud or virtualization works, right? Because what I find, people get a little bit of disconnected when we say that, say, we have a uh, NSG rules or ASG rules that need to be added, right? Or say, do we have something specific to cloud, right? Wanted to add some routes or do some firewall changes, or also all those operation aspect of the everyday day-to-day work. So they need a very high level understanding how the cloud works, how the VM to other services would work, and how we scale up, scale down. So this is all part of your operations teams. So operation team need to understand, um, how, if just an example, right, if I want to restart the VM, what is the appropriate way of restarting the VM? Is it from the portal, or is it inside the box? Or if I wanted to make the IP address of the VM as static, how do I do that? Do I do it from the portal, or shall I go ahead and inside the VM and do it from there, right? Or same thing for the DNS changes. So not an expertise level understanding needed, but definitely you need to have a little bit of working experience to support the application at production.
Yes. So, can I have also a highlight on what are the benefits of implementing all these three different operational cycles that you mentioned? So, people also might know the benefits of it before adding into it.
Mhm, mhm. Absolutely. So see, there are four brief tower that we discuss: architecting the solution at the first, and then going to the DevOps, and then adding a FinOps, and then at last SRE part of it, or operation part of it, or cloud operation part of it. So I think I would spend most of my time understanding or building the architecture, because that is the key thing. If one of the piece of the architecting solution is miss, or I have selected a wrong service at the start, or I didn't understand why I selected a specific service, or what is why my architecture is that way, then I will not be able to convince my operation or DevOps teams to do what they are doing, right? So everyone in the team at least need to know high level and have a say on, need to be on the same page what is our architecture is look like. So uh, that way we will be on the same page. And then moving forward, right, the key thing on cloud is people usually move on cloud to to make their solution at speed. If you see most of the e-commerce companies or software companies, they deliver the code multiple times in a day, right? So they don't need to do it like weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly, just like other financial or healthcare organization where they have lots of compliance related challenges. So why how this speed will help, right? So you need to leverage the second tower of it, that is DevOps.
Mm.
So dev team need to get in on a on a day, can they start building the CI/CD, and understand why CI/CD, right? Which part of the application can where we can leverage the CI/CD, and where we have some compliances, some other restrictions, like maybe some companies are working with governments, right, or financial organizations, or say healthcare, where it may or may not work at that speed, right? So considering that, the DevOps is really key to
Mm.
make you fast and fail fast.
Super. Mm.
And then last two towers will definitely help you to optimize your solutions, optimize the cost of it, and make a better value addition to your application by using what really matters, and not unnecessarily spending the on a cloud. You might have seen or heard many memes on the internet, right? Because someone kept the VMs on, they are like they cannot use many more services on Azure or any other service provider, right? Because if you don't use it properly, it may empty your pockets. So that is the key thing for FinOps, to keep an eye on what you are spending, where you are spending, and understand and then optimize it. And the last piece is, when you have all those three things in part, you need to ensure that you are meeting your reliability, you are improving your reliability, and also your availability of your application, right? So that's where the QoS engineering comes in the picture. You would intentionally inject the faults in your system, and ensure that the faults which is maybe common, right? Maybe one of the Azure region goes down, how your application will react, right? If you have multiple VMs and multiple zone, one of the zone goes down, how your application will react. So all those common situation you would intentionally create, and then improve on it, and have the idea how it will working, and when there is a problem, you'll find it and you'll fix it before it is real problem.
Exactly. So I think nobody else can give us a very clear picture rather than the person who has worked heart and soul on it, and that's what we heard it from you, Rahul. Now, and I like the fact that you mentioned that where you're spending and what you're spending is the major thing. Obviously, we do understand the importance of how it would reflect on our business flow and architecture. Yeah. So that was an amazing session between you and me, Rahul, learning about a lot about for me specifically on in terms of operations. And I think we have pretty much, as we mentioned in the title, decoded the Azure operations as much as possible within the short time of podcast that we could provide to the audience. And every person who come as a speaker to our podcast, we request them, as they are very expertise in this particular field, we request them to give few tips for beginners who are moving into Azure, be it in general or specific to what we spoke about. Can you give us a quick tip for the listeners? Might be pretty much of them could be new to Azure and who are in phases of migration, as I mentioned. So, can we just give them a quick tip from the expert yourself to know about what how the Azure begins for them?
Absolutely. I think Azure has many labs or learning podcasts or there are multiple options for anyone to start with. But however, I would recommend everyone to get started with AC 700 as a certification. Don't worry about certification or cost of it or how you gonna do it. Just go ahead and enroll yourself for the AC 700. There are multiple, if you go to the microsoft.learn page, there are multiple labs and hands-on sessions available for you to try it. It will help you to understand how Azure works, right? How many data center Azure has, what is the AZ means, how the zone means, what is LRS, what is ZRS. The key component of any cloud provider is their compute and storage. So understand how Microsoft build the compute, how Microsoft build the the storage, and then gradually once you have a clear understanding about the compute, move to the other part of it, maybe networking part of it, right? Which I find people very confused about how the networking, VNet, express route, and all those things works. But if you go at very beginning and understand the compute network, and then go for the PaaS, SaaS, and serverless options, it will be very clear for you. So the key thing I would request everyone, whoever wanted to get on Azure, get yourself enrolled for AZ 700, which is fundamental exams. Um, uh, don't worry about the exam again. Just try to go through the modules which which has it, and you'll be very well in Azure.
Super. Thank you so much for your tip for us, Rahul. And I really appreciate your time that you've spent for us in this session on a very gratitude note. I would also like to thank you for spending us a time that you have provided here, and also thank you for all the knowledge that you have given us today in this 20 minutes of time. Yeah, we're very happy to have you on our show, and also I thank all the audience who are listening to us. And we are also happy to announce that we are growing in audience number, and that's what gives us the quick strength to bring in more experts like Rahul and others who have spoken in our podcast. So we are happy to have everyone connected to us in Azure On Air.
Cove.co